Now, you've never heard of this bike, but I think you should have. I'm gonna tell you guys all about one of the coolest, cheapest cafe bikes you've never heard of right now. This is the Lafon KPM 200, and it's a cafe bike, and it's one of the coolest Lafon bikes I've ever seen. We've test driven a lot of Lafon bikes, we've abused a lot of Lafon bikes, and they hold it pretty well. You may never heard of the company. They're kind of just bursting into the American market, but they've been making motorcycles for, I think, 2 decades, and the rest of the world knows all about them. You may have heard of the Predator motor. That's a little cheap motor that you can buy for $100 at a Harbor Freight, which doesn't sound like a great sales pitch to connect it to this, but they're actually incredibly reliable motors. And a lot of times when your Honda engine out of your wood chipper or whatever goes bad, you throw a Predator motor in it because it just works. Those motors are built by Lafon. The parent company that also owns Lafon also owns 2 other companies that you may have heard of, Volvo and Lotus. Now, the cafe bike has been a pretty popular bike for a long time, for as long as I've been riding. And what people are looking for is they want something cheap, they want something that they can make or currently looks awesome so they can ride around with their buddies and pick up chicks. That's the basic thing. They're going for this style of look. So with entry-level riders, there's a couple things. One, they need something that's not very fast. They don't want something overly powerful. It can be dangerous. They also want something that's fairly light, and they also need something that's fairly inexpensive because, you know, they don't want to invest too much money into this thing that they don't really know if they're really going to like. Or they're young and they just don't have very much money. So what oftentimes happens is they buy an old 80s Honda, they got it for a couple $100, they take the whole thing apart, they're gonna turn it into a cafe bike like this one on this video that the guy spent thousands of dollars trying to, make it look like that, and it never really gets put back together. Or it just looks dumb, or they ruin these old classic bikes that I think are really cool. But there's never really been a good option for a brand new cafe bike. Now, I think what I told a lot of people was go buy a Honda Rebel. Honda Rebels are cheap, they're inexpensive, they're fun, they're great beginner bikes, but they're not cool looking. Like, they're not cool looking at all. But it's a good, safe vehicle to learn how to ride on. The cool thing about this is this has all the same characteristics of a Honda Rebel. Similar horsepower, somewhere around 18 horsepower. It can cruise on the highway well. It's light, it only weighs 330 pounds. But it's not crazy powerful that you're gonna get yourself into a lot of trouble. You can make mistakes on this. You can make throttle mistakes. You can make clutch mistakes, and it's not gonna kill you, unlike riding like a bigger bike or a 600 Super Sport or a 1000 Super Sport. But unlike the Rebel, and unlike almost any other entry-level bikes, this bike looks really, really cool. Now, it's pretty common when you buy these cheaper imported motorcycles that they're missing out on something. There's something that's just not right about it. And normally that is the style. And I think they really nailed it on the style with this one. But other times, you might buy a 2019 and it's still carbureted. Well, this one's fuel injected. Sometimes they're only a 4-speed. This one's actually a 6-speed. I feel like they really knocked it out of the park. And the thing is, a lot of times, a normal 4-stroke combustion engine, it's not hard to make. Pretty much every country can make a reliable combustion engine right now. It's when it comes to the electronics. And chances are most electronics are coming from China anyway. Lafon has proved itself to be a reliable motorcycle manufacturer. And another awesome thing about this thing is it gets over 100 miles to the gallon. And it can do 75 miles on the highway. That's pretty much the speed limit, the highest speed limit of anywhere I've been on the East Coast. And on the highway, it does it pretty comfortably. I'll show you on the test drive. As men, we like to work with our hands and put stuff together. Depending on where you buy this from, it'll just come in a crate. Now, most of it's put together. You have to put the engine together, nothing really complex or complicated. But you gotta put the handlebars on, you gotta put the mirrors on, some of the side panels on. It's all stuff that you can do with basic hand tools, and takes around 2 hours to do. But you do get that gratification of, I put this bike together myself, it came in a box. I think that's pretty cool. Now let's take a closer look at the actual bike itself. It's got cool looking LED headlights, LED turn signals. It actually, and I know this is kind of a dumb thing, but a lot of times you get these cheaper bikes, they have the dumbest looking keys. This is actually kind of a cool looking key. Some of you saw this on the countertop, you'd be like, hey, what is that? I like these leather straps. I think it's a really cool touch. This is the limited edition, special edition, white and black. This color just came out. They also have a blue with silver, I think, and also like a black and gray. I think they're all really cool colors, and I think they really nailed it with this brown leather seat. It's a common thing that a lot of cafe guys are doing. It's just an all-around classic look. LED rear lights. And then you come over here to the ignition, just normal basic stuff. Starters over here, your open loop, closed loop switch, horn, turn signals, high beam. But then it's got a really cool gauge cluster right here on the tank. And it's got a gear indicator, your miles per hour, your odometer, your fuel gauge. I think it's cool looking, easy to use. It's not, and you can see it pretty good while you're driving. It, like any LED in the daylight, it's not the easiest thing to see, but it's not horrible. Well, there's only one thing left to do. Let's take it for a spin. All right, guys, let's do the words of wisdom. Psalm 107:1. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his loving kindness is everlasting. That is very, very true. Let's fire this beast up. Okay, first of all, let me just say that these mirrors don't actually belong down there. They're kind of annoying and they kind of get in the way. Craig put this one together, I put the other one together. I did a much better job at putting my mirrors on than he did. Although, most guys who buy this bike will put their mirrors on just like this, because they think it looks cool. Something I was very, very surprised about was how much I really enjoyed this bike. It was just it is a blast to drive. I know 18 horsepower does not sound like a ton of power, but it's just so much fun, and it's more of a light-hearted, the type of fun that you should be having when you're just getting into riding motorcycles. But me and Craig have both been riding for a long time. I've been riding since I was like 18, and I don't know when Craig started riding, but Craig is super old, so we've probably both been riding for at least 20 years, and we had a blast riding these motorcycles. If you have not ridden a Miata, you probably don't like them. You're probably like, oh, it's dumb, it's a Miata, it's a dumb little girl car, it's a little convertible. But if you've rode one, you know that you get it. You're like, oh, these things are a blast. You can redline the first 3 gears at every red light and not exceed the speed limit, and it's just fun. There's something just very fun about it. So this is the exact same thing, and I really do enjoy riding these things so much that we contacted LaFon, and they actually told us that they've got 40 of them coming in on a boat, and we may have bought them. So there should be a link below that we might still have some available. Some are already spoken for, and what it would work is they would get shipped to your house. All the information should be below, so check that out. Wow, everyone's having yard sales. It's like a fair down here. Couple questions I want to know is, one, I think you guys want to know this too, can it wheelie? And I think that if I dump the clutch hard enough, we just might be able to get it to. Oh, thank you, sir. First gear. Yes! The cafe bike can wheelie. Now, a lot of times bikes like these are only good for the city and back roads. And don't get me wrong, this thing is great on the city and back roads. 100 miles per gallon, you can't beat it. This is where you would say it really belongs. Just cruising on these back roads, you're not even top gear, and you're just having a blast. You're experiencing this instead of driving in the car trying to figure out why that song is on over and over and over again on the radio. And this is honestly what I love most about riding motorcycles. Just seeing God's amazing, beautiful countryside. So you would think that it would not be good on the highway. Sometimes bikes like this, sometimes you know, depending on the wheelbase and whatever the geometry of the bike, they just don't feel very stable. So it has nothing to do with the displacement of the motor. I've ridden 600s that were like, yikes. I mean, I'm okay with riding this on the highway, but I can see how this would scare somebody. But this thing actually does really good on the highway. We're gonna jump on, try to do a 0 to 60. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's wicked fast. No, it's not that fast. It's very slow. But for an entry-level bike, okay, here's an example. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Here's a mistake. I'm trying to upshift, right? And I accidentally downshift. Nothing happened. Do it again. Nothing happened. because it doesn't have that much power. Okay, here's an example. Watch me give it too much throttle. Nothing happened. You know what I mean? It took a little while to get going. So if I did this on an R1, I'm gonna be there. You know what I mean? And my front wheel's gonna be up. And I'm cool with that. I like that. I like riding wheelies. But you might not. And that might be scary to you. And if I was first learning how to ride, that would be horrifying. All right, let's squeeze in here. All right. Now this is how you launch a smaller bike. $50. $60. Did it. Shoot, I did it before I got on the highway. And now I'm in top gear. And like I said, it's just a stable feeling bike. We're going the speed limit. I'm not, it's got a little left. I'm at 7,500 RPMs. It redlines around 10. Let's say you were like, I'm gonna ride across the country. You could do it on this. Is that the best bike? After a while, your butt's gonna start to hurt. But you could do it. If you were just like, I gotta go through a couple exits. You know, there's some bikes that I'd be like, that might be a little more horrifying for you. This feels fine. So, I'm pretty impressed with it. Now, the way Craig mounted the mirrors, it's not bad. But like I said, it's a cool looking bike. It's a entry level bike, and it's cheap. I don't know if I even mentioned the price, but it's like just over $3,000, which is not that bad. And the way the market is right now, you can't touch a bike. You can't touch a used bike for less than 3,000 bucks. Guys, that wraps it up. This is a very enjoyable bike. If you want to go to the check out the Bikes and Beards channel. Me and Craig actually do a head-to-head competition on these things. It was a lot of fun, and we plan on doing a couple more videos with it. So we'll see you guys later. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out this next video right here. Everyone else seemed to really like it. Maybe you will too. Remember, it's not what you're riding, but where you're going. Oh yeah, check out my M1 Moto gloves. Love them. Love these gloves. There will be a link below for these things too.